I have no idea whether or not this is going to work. Alright. I was going to do a video on arm sleeves, but I have to do a review of this movie. Yesterday we saw Suicide Squad, which was a movie we saw. It was... I can't say whether or not this was a good movie or not. It was not bad. It was not a terrible movie. It wasn't a good movie either, though. It was very clearly, I think this movie was done by David Ayers. Clearly David Ayers had made a movie, and that's not the movie I saw. This movie was, God, it's like, it was edited to death after the fact. The movie, particularly the beginning of it, the first quarter of it or so, was nothing but pop music songs, like, because that's the cool thing to do, is to have pop music songs playing during other stuff unrelated to it. In some places, the pop music songs are very inappropriate for the scenes that they're taking place with, or they're very, very not subtle, like Sympathy for the Devil, and just regardless, I'm getting all mixed up here. So there's a lot to talk about. The beginning of this movie starts with a bunch of pop songs, and we're introduced via some scenes where we see they're going through the prison, and they explain, this is Killer Croc, and this is Deadshot, and so on and so forth. And then we have a series of flashbacks where we see that this is Deadshot, and this is how Deadshot, despite the fact that we were just introduced to this character over again. And from what I understand, after the Batman v Superman movie came out and it was not well received, the studio went back and spent $40 million or something to that effect trying to do reshoots and stuff like that. And maybe some of the introductions and some of the flashbacks were reshoots, but there was no need to keep both of them in the same film. It's so frustrating. It's hard to describe. If this were a shitty movie, it would just be like, this is a shitty movie. Here's a bunch of reasons why it was just terrible. Or, this was a great movie, and here's a bunch of things I liked. The premise of this, like an all supervillain movie, is kind of interesting. Like there is no superhero going to stop them. The bad guys, you have bad guys versus badder guys, or badder guy in this case. And I just realized I'm sitting here wearing a City of Villains t-shirt, so great, good on me. Very appropriate for this video. So, where to even go with this? Really, the gist of why I want to make this video, despite the fact I wanted to do a different video for the first video to learn how to do videos, was it's should you see this movie? Because I have a lot of friends who want to see this movie who haven't seen it yet, and it's like, what? Do you want to see this or not? Because if you were to say, do you want to see Batman v Superman? I would say, no, don't go see that. I hear the DVD release is way, way better. Just see that. Someone you know is going to have like either a projection screen TV or a big HD TV. Just watch it that way. You're much better off. This film, I don't know. It wasn't so bad. I was like sitting in my seat groaning. Although there was some sort of, I thought, cringeworthy moments. The Joker is very polarizing. I went with a group of two of my housemates, and one of them was like, I'm a big fan of Jared Leto. this was great. His Joker was great. I thought it was awesome. I wish there was more of that, and that's a fair point because he's a supervillain who's in the film for 5 to 8 minutes, something like that. He's barely in it, but there are a lot of scenes with him. I mean, there's a ton of them, but they're all like 2 seconds long. It's really strange. Once again, clearly, after David Ayers cut this film, someone cut it again, or I'd heard rumors that someone did like an art house, not art house, trailer house, like companies that do trailers, that did the trailer that was really popular, the one that came out after Batman v Superman. Um, that they actually did this cut, the theatrical cut for this movie, and it feels like it's not cut well. This movie is not cut well at all. It's very disjointed. Um, there are very few proper scenes for this movie. And when I say a scene, I mean like there's a setup for the scene, like we're going to have the scene for this reason. In fact, I won't even be general with that. The perfect example is the scene in the bar. It's a very good one where, we're spoilers-ish. There's a scene where it's like, fuck this shit, we're not doing their crazy mission anymore, we're going into the bar. You've seen the bits of the bar scene from the trailers, particularly the second or third trailer. And it's like, so here's the setup. Fuck this shit, we're going into a bar. So there's the setup, then the scene begins. They go into a bar and they have extended dialogue. Each character talks about their backstory. They talk about how they feel about it now. It has an introduction. Here's the beginning of the scene plays out, and then the scene has a sort of a climax, to itself, where the other character comes in and he talks the guys into doing something. There's a conflict involved with that, and that conflict is resolved, and the scene ends. Complete scene, crazy. The rest of the movie doesn't have a lot of those, and that's very, very frustrating to watch and listen to, because it's every scene with the Joker, except for the very, very end, and even then, kind of. There's clearly a whole scene like I just described, but we don't see it. We see like bits of it, like we're seeing a truncated version of a much more involved scene. Like maybe David Ayers. I would love to see David Ayers' cut of this film. I would love to see the director's cut of this film. I think that would be a much better version than whatever the hell I just saw yesterday. Um, but at the same time, a lot of the scenes feel very, like I said, truncated. They feel like cut off, as though it was a more involved scene, but it was cut, I don't know, for time, or to change the tone of the film, or something else that I don't know. I don't know why. Once again, this was very clearly changed, kind of radically. It looks like this might be like a studio interference type. Like, oh no, we got someone with a vision like David Ayers, and he's successfully expressed his vision. Screw that. Let's get something else. Let's do this differently. The way this was cut was clearly to mimic Guardians of the Galaxy or a film like that, and I don't think this film fits well. There are a few jokes scattered throughout the film, but I never laughed once during this film. Like nothing made me even like kind of that was kind of cute. No, the whole film was devoid of anything like that. It was. I thought every scene with the Joker is going to be very polarizing for people, where it's going to be either I can get past this or even get on board with this weird gangster Joker, or you won't, and it'll just be horrible to watch, which it was for me. I was not pleased to look at the Joker in any scene he was in. Maybe if the scenes had been longer and we'd seen why is the Joker like this? Why is he this Joker? Described him better, because otherwise what we saw was too short. It didn't. The character was in the movie too much to ignore him, but he wasn't allowed any full scenes in this film to properly describe him. So what? You know? If he had just shown up at the very end of this film, and like we'd only seen like, we needed more or less of this character, is what I'm saying, I guess. You know, we needed this character to be better described or less of him. So it was more teasy for like another film, or hell, even a Joker Harley Quinn film or something like that. Or the Bat, screwing hell, like there's going to be a Batman film at some point. Ben Affleck Batman film, fine, he'd be perfect, I guess, probably, maybe. The rest of this film, the characters are very likable, some of them anyway. I can't think of anyone who we see a lot of screen time on. I didn't really care for Margot Robbie's, whatever her name is. I didn't care for Harley Quinn that much. But it wasn't a bad character, and I don't as much understand why she was in this. I mean, I understand why this character is here from a story perspective. From within the logic of the movie, you know, we have this supernatural thing going on, and we need to do this other thing, and I'm not going to tell you what the thing is, because that really would be spoilers. But I can't think of any of these situations where a crazy person with a baseball bat would be your go-to. Like, oh, we have this complicated military thing, and we have military guys. Let's get a crazy woman with a baseball bat to help out, because that makes sense. I mean, if it takes place in some city, if she knew something about the city, or she knows the Joker really well, and we had some reason to believe the Joker was going to be very prominent in this, of course, that makes sense. So she knows the Joker, maybe we can use her for leverage. She knows the city, maybe she can tell us something about the city, blah, 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 blah. None of that happens. There's no reason for this character to be in this from the logic. I mean, obviously, from a movie-making perspective, it's the sexier character you all are familiar with. I mean, I'm sure people who've watched Arrow by this point are very familiar with Deadshot. People more familiar with the comics are very familiar with him and the entire Rogues Gallery who shows up. I have no idea who Slipknot is, because not a spoiler-ish, but we get the backstory of all the characters except for one. How long do you think you're going to be seeing this character? It's the organization of this film is strange. Like it's not very. The organization is very bad. I mean, I'm going to just call it like that, not say, well, they tried this, or it's just very disorganized. It was cut like a trailer. It was cut to be cinematic, have a lot of quippy things that I didn't think were terribly clever, but at the same time, it didn't annoy me. I wasn't like seething in my seat. I can't believe I paid, we saw him that night. I can't believe I paid $6 to see this piece of shit. It was okay. It was fine. It was. I guess it's frustrating because this could have been a much better film, and maybe it was. Like maybe David Ayer's version of this film is just utterly fantastic. Like the next Citizen Kane, Suicide Squad, will be studied for ages, but we'll never know that because this was not the cut we saw. What else? I guess that's it. It's how to rate this film. I think I can't really give this a rating, or any film, I think, because I have problems with it. Because a rating is just, what did I think about the film? And I'm not most people, so I wouldn't give it the same rating other people would. So, I really like this film, but you'll think it's terrible, so don't go see it. I think it's more, what are the odds you're not going to like this film? I think are better, because I think that would be more useful. what are the odds that you're not going to like this film? And that gets to the kind of the crux of my impetus for making this video in the first place, is that I think they're even, like they're even odds, like it's a coin flip. I think it's 50-50. Like there's a 50% chance. That's my guess. That's my opinion. My guess is that your average person who would go to see this film has a 50-50 chance of not liking what they're going to see. Because if you can ignore the disjointed, this organizationally and structurally, this film has a lot of problems. I mean, even if you really like this, you're going to come out of this here like, I really like that. But boy, there were a lot of problems with that film. It was just poorly constructed. And anyway, I think it's the coin flip. It's you'll be able to ignore its many, 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 many flaws and just enjoy it because you get to see these. It is different. I mean, it is. It is super villains fighting super villains. And that's kind of the frustrating part either, because the super villains are played very sympathetically, but fine, it's still a superhero film. But too sympathetically. If they'd been like real bad guys, and it was bad guys versus bad guys, that's an interesting premise. That's why I was interested in this film in the first place, because that's a cool idea. Because normally, if you're watching a superhero film, it's like, is so and so going to get killed and fail to defeat bad guy? Well, no, of course not, because it's, if it's you didn't go into Man of Steel going, wow, I wonder if Superman is going to defeat Zod. Who knows? Well, of course he is. Freaking hell. If it's supervillains versus supervillains, you don't know now, do you? Because you don't have a superhero to root for, a clear protagonist who's just automatically going to win at the end of this film. And that's a neat idea. I would have liked to have seen that film. That's a film I want to see. I hope someone makes that film someday, because they didn't make that today. I guess that's all. So if you go into this, it's a coin flip. You'll like it or you won't. And it's, having seen it, I don't want to see this film again. If there's a director's cut, sure. I'm very curious. I'm very curious about that, but I would not see this film again. Like a film I really liked, Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, I would have seen that like right after Let Out. Like if I had gotten out of that film and someone said, "Hey, do you want to see that film again?" Yes, right now. Like I won't even wait 5 minutes. Just usher me into the next theater and I'll just start watching it again. It was that good. This film I never want to see it again. So that's my rating. It's like, do I want to see this movie again? Shit, no. This was not very good at all. So I don't want to see it. But knowing what I know now, would I go back in time and stop myself from seeing it? No. I'm glad I saw it. There were parts of it that were okay. There were parts of it I liked. Will Smith is good in it. I thought Amanda Waller was fine. I thought everyone was fine. It's grading systems are just not sufficient. I mean, like I said, if you can ignore this movie's problems, you will like this film. That's all. That's it. We're done.